Rob Brydon is a Welsh actor and comedian, presenter, singer, writer, and podcaster who has been adored by audiences across the nation for years. He also happens to be a dab hand at an impression. He has graced our screens for decades and appeared in some of the UK's most loved TV shows, including Gavin Stacey as the beloved Uncle Bryn. He has won countless awards for comedy, and in 2013, he was recognised for his services to comedy and broadcasting with an MBE, presented to him by Queen Elizabeth II. Most recently, he embarked on a tour recounting tales from his hometown in Baglan to Hollywood and back. And he continues his podcast, Brydon and, which he started in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to be in conversation with the inimitable Rob Brydon, and your host for this evening, me. So,
yes.
I can't sit here chatting to you about all the things you've done, and we're not talk about Gavin and Stacey because it's one of the most loved British TV shows, and I think it's just so warm, and I think everybody falls in love with, and also sees themselves in some of the characters.
Yeah.
So Ruth and James Corden wrote that together, and Ruth had you in mind for Uncle Bryn.
So they say.
They say.
Yes.
Was that lovely? Had you worked with Ruth previously?
Yeah. Well, I was at school with her, so I knew her then. And then I was part of an improv comedy group, which is where I met Julia Davis in about 93, 94. And Ruth joined that.
Yeah.
So for a while, that was based in Bristol. Based in Bath, I think, and we would do shows in Bristol and Bath. So I'd worked her on that, and I'd worked with her then on Human Remains. She's in an episode of Human Remains, the one called All Over My Glasses, where I'm this Welsh kind of bully guy called Stephen, and Julia is like this, Michelle, she talked like that, Stephen, I don't know. And Ruth was Michelle's best friend called... I can't remember. Mark Benton was in that episode as well. Very, very, very funny. So I'd worked with her on that. I don't think I'd worked with her on anything else. And they were writing this show and said, oh, we've written this thing. And I knew James because I'd done a show called Cruise of the Gods, which is a one-off comedy with Coogan. Russell Brand was in it, although he got sacked for carousing. Jack Jones, the singer, was in it. Who else was in it? Williams is where I met David Williams, was doing that. And I remember we filmed it. Filmed it on a cruise ship and on a beach resort in Greece. And I remember being one night at a sort of taverna. It was out of season with James, and we're walking back to the hotel, and he said, "Oh, you know what I really want to do is write." And he said, "Oh, what advice would you give?" So I co-written Marion and Geoff and Human Remains. So I said, well, don't talk about it, just do it. That was my only advice. Anyway, he was working around that time on Fat Friends, Kay Mellor's show with Ruth. That's where they met. And he had been to a wedding, I think, in Barry or something, and they then said, "Oh, wouldn't it was amazing? You could do a really good one-off comedy about a wedding, couldn't you? The two families, yeah." And when they wrote it, I think, and they took it to, I think, Stuart Murphy at the BBC, and he said this could be a series. Yeah. It's quite a funny thing to say, isn't it? You know,
yeah, absolutely.
More. It's usually less.
It's normally 10 minutes. So they wrote it, and then said to me, and I was resistant at first because I had done Keith, who was a naive, well-meaning Welshman, not a million miles away from Bryn. So it took me a while, but thank God I made the right decision, and we did it. And you know, from the beginning of doing it, it was lovely to do. You knew the scripts were fantastic, and the quality of the cast, and then it was a hit. Yeah. So by the time we came back to do the second one, it was already a hit. And then since then, it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where we, you know, when we filmed that
special, that Christmas
Yes.
special. We filmed that in the summer, immediately after coming back from Greece, doing the trip to Greece. And it was a sort of heatwave summer in Barry, dressed as if it was Christmas. So any exteriors, Chris Gurnan, the director, would say, remember now, it's cold.
Yeah.
So you'd come out going, oh, how are you there? Hello, Smithy. Oh, right. You have to do all that. Yeah, brilliant. So
Yeah.
Gavin and Stacey just, just a win-win-win, positive, positive.
Genius, win-win-win-win. And slightly off-piece, though, poor James Corden's having a little bit of a tough time in the press recently. And I know he's a friend and everything like that, so I don't want to go into that or be rude about anyone, but I sometimes... Number one, are you nervous of press? Do the press ever make you nervous?
It's quite deliberately, I don't seem to live the sort of life that they're that interested in. And that's fine.
Yes.
There's no plus side, other than, ticket sales. Because, of course, you could argue, if you are in the press for reasons you may not want, they're talking about you.
Yeah.
I like to go to work, do the job, come home. Now, I like all the nice things that go with it. At a younger age, I might have thought, but it'd be quite exciting, wouldn't it, if I was talking about you and, here he is. Not now.
And another, it kind of made me kind of think in kind of the subject, is that sometimes I'm not sure America's really, this is my personal opinion, that America is really good for sometimes for some people. I think they can spoil people.
But I don't think James has been spoilt by it. The story about the omelette. I sort of don't want to get drawn, but there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah,
I'll just say that, of which I know that there's more to it than meets the eye.
Totally. I mean, when I see headlines and things like that, I was actually brought up to kind of fear the press and don't just keep them to a point where they interviewed me and Dad for Relative Values, and because I was young, I was like 18, I hadn't read it. I didn't say anything because I'd been taught just don't speak.
Really, even at that age, interesting.
Yeah, just don't. So I didn't. So it was quite a dull interview for me.
James has a roller coaster life, and I think that
handling that
it's very challenging. I don't think enough is made, frankly, about his success.
Yes.
I mean, why am I not reading things that say...
You're absolutely right.
Wow, look what he's achieved.
No, absolutely.
You never read that?
No.
It's like it's a given. He went to America...
I know, and has taken...
...to take over a show, and it has become massive.
And that is a huge pressure.
Yes, and his company has made all sorts of other hugely successful shows.
Yeah.
These things don't just happen.
No.
You know?
People love to...
I would like to see more
positive,
that.
Big up, how amazing.
Rather
you're right.
than he sent an omelette back.
I know, it's true. Yeah, nice message. I think you're absolutely right. Thank you for that. So in 2013, you were awarded on an MBE. It's big for services to comedy broadcasting as well as charitable work.
Yeah.
You're laughing.
Well, I remember when I had the Queen, which was exciting.
Everybody wants the Queen.
Because you can get a minor royal,
no, it's
and
the
nobody
truth.
wants
Everyone
that.
wants the Queen, and you got the Queen.
Nobody wants the Earl of Glamorgan or something, do they?
No.
They were hoping for the Queen.
Yeah.
I got the Queen, and it was at Windsor Castle, a big deal, from Mum and Dad.
Huge.
I'm not sure. I would say that. Well, I'm not sure about how I feel about the honours system. Hang on a minute, Rob. You accepted it? Yes, I did. Because for my parents, it was just astonishing. And I'm an ambassador for the Prince's Trust. I believe in that, and I've seen what that does. I've seen the difference.
Work.
There's a whole other discussion about the monarchy, but here's where we are. I'm impressed with what he has done with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've met him a few times. I instinctively like the man. There we are. So we went along, and Mum and Dad and Claire came, and it's a big, it's a
big deal.
Big old thing, yeah.
And the Queen, who had amazing lady. If you subscribe to a fabric of life coloured by the sea, subscribe to Open Water from Rockwater for exclusive performances by international recording artists and world-class musicians, celebrity talks and stand-up comedy, to film screenings by firesides, well-being workouts and beach-bound meditation. Open Water gives you exclusive access to the best that Rockwater has to offer. Played out over 3 floors, just a stone's throw from the water, with remarkable food and drink experiences for company. To find out more, contact the team today. openwater@rockwater.uk. Open Water, made by the sea. And so now jumping to somewhere totally different.
Yes.
It's song and music and singing.
Yes.
Yes, and your show, A Night of Songs and Laughter.
Night of Songs and Laughter.
Well, I was lucky enough to come and see that too.
I know,
and
I know,
loved
I
it
know.
very much.
Why is he singing? Why isn't he happy advertising cruises? Why does
My
he
best
want
friend
to
Holly
sing?
Eyre did the tagline.
Yes, she did. I know. I used to see her sometimes.
Yeah, so she's...
Yeah,
We
yeah.
went to ballet school together since
Yes,
we were 9.
yeah.
And yes, it was a great show. What
Thank
made you
you.
want to do it? You know, what you
I
wanted
wanted
to
to do, well, long story short, I have sung in things over the years, but I suppose you could... It's always interesting what people know that you do.
Yeah.
Because I'll see some people who say, oh, yeah, of course, you know, you sang in this, you sang in that. In others, the majority didn't know you sang. And people, a little suspicious when you switch lanes.
Yeah.
I understand that. I do think that when a comedian says, now I'm going to sing, you can sort of raise your eyebrows a little bit. It's a bit like David Brent getting out the guitar you know, in that episode of The Office.
Yes.
But I'd wanted to do it for a long time. So, well, why not do a musical? Well, because of the kids. Because if you do a musical, you are out 6 nights of the week and you collapse on the Sunday. You do not see your family.
No.
And so I didn't want that. But I'd sung when I had the talk show on BBC Two. I would sing there. I sang in Gavin and Stacey. I would sing on I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. I sang on the radio things over the years, this, that, and the other. My friend Joe Stilgo, do you know Joe?
Yes, I know Joe.
He's an incredibly talented
Very
man.
talented. Dad took me to see him in Edinburgh.
I mean, astonishing. He was doing the show, and I have several times now guested with Joe. And one night I sang with him as a Christmas show, and I did a little bit of patter, as your dad would have called it, and a song and everything. And a producer who I knew, that's another one of your dad's words, a producer and I, it's not the one about the chap that goes to the chemist and says no. He said, this producer was in the audience who I knew, Ed Snape. And he said, you should do a show like that. And I said, well, yeah, I've always wanted to. 2 things. I was shy of doing it for fear of criticism and ridicule. You know, who the hell do you think you are, you know? He said, oh, no, you should do it. And I said, all right, well, you organise it then, and I will do it. And of course, you say that to a producer, and it's a red rag to the bull, isn't it? So he went off and he did it. And the first thing we did was, because I wanted to do it properly, wait till I tell you now, we met with 6, I think, musical directors, all of whom were incredibly talented. Paul Herbert, who I chose, we just hit it off. There was a thing there. I had an idea of a few musicians that I would like to use. Well, before that, so then I would meet with Paul about once a week for almost a year in a rehearsal space in Chiswick. And he would bring some songs in, I would bring some songs in, and we would do them. I loved that. I would have been happy just doing that because it was great. And he taught me techniques in my voice that have been so helpful. But Ed would say, well, okay, what about we going to do the show? Oh, we don't want to think about that. So eventually, he put some dates in at Crazy Coq's in Piccadilly, that lovely little cabaret room. And Paul and I did a week there of what became the show, but was a bare bones version. Then we started thinking about musicians. I had a few that I wanted. Giacomo Smith, clarinet, he came in. Gabriella Swallow on cello. Wow, got them both. Paul brought all the others in. And we did it, and we toured it, and we did the Palladium, and I'm taking it to Australia and New Zealand in March.
Wow.
And I love it. I love it because I love to sing. I mean, still a funny... You've seen it.
Yes.
It's a funny show. It's telling my life story through music that I've been involved in and things that I was listening to.
Yeah, it's a lovely show. And it's funny how we get put in category, or you think, a comedian that sings. Some comedians can sing.
Yeah.
It's a different... my mum used to say about beaded. Yeah, it is.
It is. It's like when a comedian writes a book. I think, what are they writing a book for? And you get a lot of criticism. It's just storytelling. Yeah. The whole thing is different ways of telling stories.
Yeah. It's absolutely true.
Were you going to say something your mum had said? What was that?
My mum always used to say, you need your beaded bag.
Ah, yes.
So
yes.
Every skill you pick up is another to your beaded bag.
Yeah.
You don't want to just, if you're lucky enough not just to be good at one thing, get those beads in your bag.
There's a great story about who was it? A well-known comedian. Steve Martin. I think it was Steve Martin. Was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and I think, I'm probably mangling this story, but unplanned, he ended up juggling on the show. And in the break, I think he said to Johnny Carson, wow. He goes, I can't believe I just juggled on The Tonight Show. And I think Johnny said, kid, before you're done, you'll do everything you ever learnt. Meaning that you'll end up doing everything that you can within your bag of tricks.
That's it.
You will end up doing
your beaded bag.
Yeah.
So you've got an amazing beaded bag. Is there anything there's something you haven't done that you want to do? Do you know
I should write more. I'd like to find the discipline to sit down and write a script by myself. I don't think I ever will. But I'd like that. I would love to learn to play the piano. That's a thing I'd like to do. I want to be in a musical once the boys are old enough that they don't care whether Dad is there in the evening or not. And we're getting close to that. I would like to do a musical.
Yeah.
I'd like to act in something where it's very naturalistic, something like Succession. I would love to do something like that.
Yes.
I would love, if you want specific ambitions, I would love to be in a Wes Anderson film.
Yes.
That would be a delight.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So also in this podcast, I mean, I love talking to people. I've particularly loved speaking to you because, number one, it's been so blooming lovely to see you again and talk to you.
I wish I could say the same.
But I tap on, I suppose, with people's honesty and being open and vulnerable, because luckily I'm speaking to people that are in the public eye. And if they can be brave to be open and honest, it helps people through many different things. And Dad used to say to me about comedians, he'd say they've all got their dark side. Although, in all honesty, I never saw Dad's. I never asked him what his was.
Yeah.
But they can suffer with anxiety or a bit, not always.
But you didn't see that in your dad then?
No.
That's interesting.
And I never said.
And yet he said to you, all comedians have their dark side.
Have a dark side, and it wasn't dark. What did he say? I've got it written down. Dad taught that. He used to say comedians are tortured in some way. But I never saw that. But I suppose I'm talking about anxiety or handling it all. Have you ever been touched by anything that you've had to dig deep to kind of...
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Good God, yes. What being anxious or...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
yeah, I do think everybody does. A lot of people don't say it, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean...
And we're more open now, we're more open in life talking about it to our children too.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the kind of thing.
And that's good, although I do sometimes think, oh, God,
too much.
Shut up, just get on with it.
Yeah.
But then where do you draw the line? I don't know, because...
I think things swing from not speaking at all
Yeah.
to over-speaking
Yes.
to coming back, because now everybody's got a
I
label.
sometimes hear somebody in the public eye, like a performer or something, saying, "Oh, of course, I have terrible imposter syndrome," and I think, well, all right. I mean, don't we all? I think maybe... I was feeling something the other day, and I thought, oh, yeah, I suppose you could call this imposter syndrome, could you? But I just go, right, get on with it, you know? The Anthony Hopkins thing of, there we are, there it is, get on with it, right, carry on.
No, it's true, that's nerves, isn't it? Which is, you know, you always go,
and then making what's the distinction between depression and I feel low today?
Yeah.
And you're not going to skip around whistling every day of the week,
It's like people used to say to me, is your dad funny all the time?
Oh,
and I'd go, well, thank
classic.
God not.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Yeah. Oh, we get that all the time.
Yeah.
My wife in particular, oh, it must be a laugh a minute.
Oh, she's like,
no, it's not. No, it's not.
No. There's moments.
It's laugh a lifetime. There we are. It was the wedding day. No. Having said that, I mean, I have got friends. I always come out to Lee Mack. Is bloody funny. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. This was last Saturday. We were going to an anniversary party of a mutual friend of ours. I won't say who they were because they're very private people. It'd be nice to have a follow-up joke to that now, wouldn't it? And, you know, anyway. So, it was the day, right? It was Saturday night. And at about 5 o'clock, I'm driving somewhere to pick up my 11-year-old. He's been at his mate's. And as I'm there, the phone goes... I get a text from Lee. And he said, and this event is black tie. And Lee says, you're not going the full shirt, jacket and tie, are you? Right? I wrote back, it's black tie.
Yes.
Right? So George is in the car. And ring, yes. And Lee goes, oh, you're not telling me that... And uses a word that you maybe... Not a dreadful word, but maybe a word. Look at me tiptoeing around you. I said, you're on speakerphone and George is in the car. And quick as that, he went, hello, George, it's your Uncle Trevor. And he is...
Funny.
We went skiing with them once. At breakfast.
Yeah.
Funny. Sometimes when you say that, oh, he must be insufferable. He's not. He's sufferable. He's so bloody funny.
Jimmy Tarbuck, very similar to that. In fact, I was in Scotland last time. I was seeing my mum, and the phone rang, and this voice came on, and I knew that it was somebody didn't sound like a real voice, so I thought it's either Dylan or Tom, because they always do it. Yeah. And he just said, I said, who's speaking, please? And he said the name, and I said, he said, is your mother there? And I said, who's speaking? He said, I was a lover from a very long time ago. Immediately. Yeah. I knew, he didn't sound like Jimmy, but I went... He told, I saw him at a Jimmy, is that you?
Yeah.
And he started laughing. Yeah. He is funny.
Yeah. Naturally funny.
Without it being... No, it's funny. He's just naturally funny.
And sees the funny things. Lee will see funny in something which I would have to probably stare a lot longer at it before I would see.
Lisa Tarbuck too.
The funny.
I love her radio show.
Yeah.
On a Saturday.
She's very kind of warm and
lovely,
my
isn't God,
she?
Her radio show I just love. I love also, that's why I wanted to say quickly, because we're nearly coming to the end of our time, I really love your podcast.
Thank you.
And I recently watched the one with Dawn French.
Oh, I love
When
Dawn.
You're plugging something in, though, and you disappear off camera and she thinks you've collapsed.
Oh, really?
That's what she said. I thought you died.
I love Dawn. I mean, I worked with Dawn. We did a drama about Beatrix Potter together a few years ago, and we just hit it off. I'd met her, you know, hither and yon, but never spent time with her. And she was one of those people, we clicked straight away and were immediately sharing intimate secrets. One of those things, you know, where you just...
Straight away.
Yeah.
Feel comfortable. And you saw Jimmy, was he...
I saw Jimmy at a lunch for Michael Parkinson. He was. And he told that story about calling your mum.
Pretending to be the lover from years ago, but I knew it was him straight away. Well, on that note, I just want to say thank you for our In Conversation with Hot Water. It's... Great pleasure, because you know that I thought the world of your dad, so... And your mum as well. And they think the world of you.
Good.
So
That's
on
lovely.
this,
Yes.
would you mind, as I know you love singing, this is for Mum, this is
Yeah.
for Anne, and I've been brought up with singing, and my
Yes.
mum was, can we sing? Can we
Yes.
sing out?
Let's do it.
What should we do? What should we sing?
Well, I mean, the birdie song's already been done.
Yeah.
So, and see, when you start singing like this, the danger is you start in the wrong key.
If it's bad, we'll edit it. Remember, we can always...
Where am I looking at you, Mum? I'm looking at it.
And I'm looking at you down here too, Mum.
Hello, Anne. Maybe I didn't... I've started too low. Not too high, too low. That's the other thing. Oh. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I could have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I should have. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.
I absolutely loved sitting down with Rob and listening to his many stories of not just his own life, but also those of his fantastic, famous friendships in the world of entertainment, including his friendship with my very own incredible dad, Ronnie Corbett. Don't forget to let us know what you thought by rating and reviewing, and make sure to keep an eye out for up and coming episodes. Thanks.